Hello, I'm Dustin, and in this video we will be covering how to migrate your data from the old 2022 February 27th version of the Passive Portfolio Tracker to the new 2023 January 15th version of the Passive Portfolio Tracker. Here on the bottom I have the old February 27 version. On the top we have the new January 15 version. The first tab we will go to for migrating data is the Properties tab. Here on the bottom, we have all of our sample data from the February 27 version, and we'll be migrating to the new version. Please note that there are two tabs now with your property information. Properties tab 1 is all of your textual information, and the Purchase tab will be all of your financial information about the property. We broke this up so that people working on smaller screens, laptops and such, can see their data easier on one screen instead of having to scroll across a massive screen of data. To move this data, it's pretty simple. We actually pay attention to that as we're creating new versions and making changes to the spreadsheet. You just pay attention to the columns here at the top, all your column headers, and you'll see that we have property name, partnership name, address, city, state, zip, and then it changes. So we'll just come here to the bottom. We'll click on this first column. Here we can hold down our Shift key and come all the way across to select all of that data. Right click and copy. Now as we come back up here to paste, we want to make sure we're on property 1. Click in here, right click, paste special, and we prefer to use paste formulas. You could also use paste values since there are generally no formulas in this, but let's stick with paste formulas. And so now we've moved that data over. The next set of columns is property class, number of units, year built, and value play. So we'll come across here and see that we have units, year built, and type of deal. So we can select those. Now you can click in the first cell and hold the Shift key, or you can just click in the first cell, hold down your button on your mouse, and drag across. Either way, we'll select all of the data. Now again, we can right click and hit copy, or we could also hit Command C on a Mac or Control C on a PC to copy. We'll come up, we don't have data on the class of the property, A, B, C, but we do have the units, year built, and property type. We'll just click in this first column, right click, paste special, and again we'll stick with paste formulas. That moved across all the data. We had no sample data for the property type, value, yield, hybrid, so that nothing moved across. But you can also verify, just look and see where property year is 2012, property year is 2012, this last one's 2002, 2002. Just double check as you're moving your data across. The next section we will be working on is lead's name, lead's email, lead's phone number, and then we added a new column for the address of the lead or the LLC address, so you have an address that you can contact the lead or the property. Here we can go ahead and copy that. Lastly, we have lead's deal number and the lead's override. We can come down and select that. And the final column is a notes column. If you have any notes for these properties, you can migrate that over. For the sample data, we don't have any notes, but if you did, you could copy that over, or you could write in new notes. Next, we are on the Purchase tab on the new version. There is no Purchase tab on the old February 27 version. We will just migrate the number data from the old version to the new version. So we start off with purchase date. Next, we can get purchase price and go all the way across with all of this next data. We'll go here to purchase price, and we can come all the way across and copy everything. Copy, paste special, paste formulas. Now notice here in our formulas column, we overrode the formula and it's highlighted in green. You can also go through and verify, do some spot checking to make sure that your data is correct. One thing that's new on the new version is the cash call section is no longer strictly for cash calls. It also covers capital events, return of capital. So if you put a date in here And a positive number, that is a cash call. You put money into the deal. If you put a negative number in column Q, that is a return of capital. The white paper talks about leads that overcapitalize, returning your capital and not counting against your investment. So here you can track whether you've had a cash call or a return of capital. Again, here at the end, we have a notes section. You can put notes here. So if you do that cash call or a return of capital, you can put those notes in here or something else. Back at the beginning of this one, you'll notice that we have some cells highlighted in blue on the purchase date. These properties highlighted in blue tell you the first property purchased in that calendar year. So this first property was the first property of 2014. This last property down here was the first property bought in 2022. This one here, the first property bought in 2021. It just gives you a nice, easy way to know which year each properties were purchased. Coming back over here to the formulas, you'll see this one highlighted in green. We click on that, you see we've got a number in there. If we arrow up, you'll see there's a formula. So this green box lets us know that we have overwrote the formula with, for some reason, we've put a number in that we prefer to use instead of what the formula gives us. Next, we'll be migrating data from the Quarterlies tab to the Quarterlies Dollar tab. These tabs have not changed much. Mostly, we'll just be moving the data. We will select here right at the property number 1, first quarter to expect distribution, and we will scroll across to the data here at the very end and select the last cell of data. Now with this, we can select more data. Copying and pasting these blank cells will not be a problem, so long as they are the yellow cells. If we tried to select anything up here at the top, it would not allow us to copy and paste. But here we will right click and copy, or Command C, Command V to copy. And then we will come up and make sure we're on property 1, and in the first quarter to expect a distribution, we will right click there, paste special, paste formulas. It copied in all of our data. It copied in whether or not things were distributed, and it put in all of our distributions across the board. We can scroll across and verify that the numbers line up. Here we are Q4 of 2022, and we got 12,275 up here. Q4 2022, 12,275. One thing to note, on the old version, we used orange as an undeposited. On the new version, it is green, which means it has been deposited. So you want to make sure you come up and check or uncheck this green box to let you know how you're working with your spreadsheet. If you work in the undeposited, so knowing that everything else has been deposited and only the orange has not been deposited, which is the way I prefer to work, then you will keep this box unchecked and everything will stay orange. And here in the top, it will tell you that you have one undeposited check for $2,100. I use this knowing a lead has told me they're going to be sending me a check for $2,100, but I have not actually received that check, or that ACH has not been deposited yet. When I have no X's in this column, I know my quarter is complete. Nora, on the other hand, prefers to work in the mark as deposited, so she keeps this box checked, and that makes everything green. So that means the only check that she's received is this $2,100. All of these other checks have not been deposited. And until every one of these cells has an X in it, she knows her quarter is not complete. This will tell you that you are missing 11 checks in the amount of $10,175. When Nora and I are working on the spreadsheet, we try to make it so that you can work in the way that makes the most sense to you. Next, we'll be working on the Loans tab. On the Loans tab, to migrate our data, we will simply come up here to our interest rate, and we can just copy everything across because there have been no new additions to this section. They can highlight there, hold down Shift. We can come all the way across to the loan data on our first refinance. Sample data did not put any new loan data in here, but you should have that if you did a refinance. You should have your new loan amount and your new interest rate and information, because the spreadsheet will take advantage of that for calculating debt service and stuff. Right click, copy, come up here to the new version, make sure we're on the very first property and the interest rate for its initial loan. Right click, paste special, paste formulas, and it will migrate across all of your loan data. Next, we'll be migrating our sale data from the old version to the new version. We have added one new column here, the date of payment number 2. In the previous version, we did not have a date for payment number 2, and we noticed that there are situations where your payment number 1 will be in one calendar year and payment number 2 will be in the second calendar year. So we wanted to track the dates of those distributions. We will go through here and select our first 3 columns, copy, come up and paste that. Make sure you're on the first property, sold price, paste special, paste formulas. We don't have any date information, but we do have a second proceed, second distribution, so we can go ahead and select that, copy, and notice this cell will change when we paste formulas. All of a sudden, the date number 2 turns bright yellow. It wants you to put that date in there so that we know when to calculate this payment. Another thing to notice, and one of the reasons we use the paste formulas, here on the bottom, this $167,400 payment, if we click on that cell, we will notice that it's actually a formula in there. 100,000 plus 67,400. That distribution was paid in 2 separate checks. The lead paid one check for $100,000, return of capital, and a separate check of $67,400. And to put it in one cell, we do a simple math. Equals 100 plus 67,400, and it gives you the total of 67,400. If you copied and pasted this without the formula, up here, you would strictly have the result, the 167,400, and you would not have the 2 separate checks. I like having those 2 separate numbers in there, so when I'm going back into my bank account and look and don't see one check for 167, I see 2 checks, one for 100 and one for 67. It helps me figure out how to reconcile my bank account. Just a little something to think about, and one of the reasons we use the paste formulas instead of paste values. Next, we'll be migrating data from the MFQA tab to the new MFQA tab. There are no changes on this tab, and so all you need to do is simply go to your first property, first column, select that cell, hold your shift key, go all the way to your last column, Command C, or right click and copy. Now we need to make sure we're in the first column on the first property, right click, paste special, paste formulas, and that pasted our data across. Next, we'll be migrating our data from our Financials tab. Here, we'll go up to our first property, the loan information, select that first loan information, and we can scroll all the way across to our new cap rate, shift select, copy, come up to the new one. We can just go here and select the first property, loan data, copy, paste special, paste formulas. Next, we'll need to look at one change. In the old version, we have 3 columns for your bank accounts, and they're all positive. They're all bank assets. In the new version, we have 2 columns for assets or total cash in the bank and 1 column for liabilities. If you have something that is going to be paid out and you know about that, you can put a negative number in here. So right now, this $100,000 should not be here. It should be somewhere over here in your other assets. So what we need to do is we'll come in and make a formula. We'll go here with this 15,000. We'll come up here to the top, and we will go to the beginning, use an equal sign, 100,000, a plus sign, and the 15,000. So we're adding both of those together, the 100 and the 15,000. Hit return. Now we have the 115,000 there. And in this column, we can come select the $100,000 that is not a liability, and we will clear contents. This gets us back to our accurate data. Another change that we've made on this is all of the negative numbers, your current loan balance, your current debt service, total expenses, all of these numbers are now red to let you know that they are negative numbers. You can look at your loans tab and get debt service amounts, or you can manually enter these based on what your debt service is, based on information provided by your lead. As you scroll through this tab, there are several changes back here, mostly formatting. We won't get into that in this. After you have migrated your data to the new spreadsheet, you'll need to come back to your Dashboard tab, which was formerly the Graphs 1 tab, and we will need to update the data. Notice up here at the top, we've got Refresh All Data. If we scroll over, we can see we have some pivot tables over here. What we need to do is follow the information in this top box. We'll go to Data, then we'll click on Refresh All Data. Now we need to come and click on the filter buttons. This filter button, we can now select all data, and we will unselect blank data. Close that box, and now our data has been updated for this pivot table. We'll do that across all of them. Now that we've updated all of our pivot tables, we can scroll back over. That data, those pivot tables, are used in our pie charts down here. So now we can click and scroll down to the deals per city pie chart and see that we have our new updated deals per city information in this pie chart. Same going as we scroll down, all of our pie charts are updated with our new data. Here on the side, we can scroll back to the top to our tables or to our pivot tables if we need to change this data. I'll go back to tables. This brings us back here to the top of our new dashboard page, which was formerly our Graphs 1 tab on the old spreadsheet. Next, we'll be on our Graphs 2 tab of the original spreadsheet, which is our financials graphs on the new spreadsheet. We've changed the name and moved it, and as you will notice, there's no information on here. So we need to go update our data again, just like we did on the dashboard tab, the new dashboard tab. We'll click on this plus up here. That will bring across and show us all of our pivot tables. Again, we need to be on the Data tab, click Refresh All. Now that data has refreshed, we can come down and select each one of the filter buttons. Here, we need to change the A to Properties. And then again, select All, uncheck the blanks, and close. Do that across all of these pivot tables. On these last two pivot tables, we do not need to select properties. It is already selected. So we'll just go ahead and select all and uncheck blank data. And now we can go and minimize our pivot tables. One change that we have made to all of our tables is they are now the same blue color that is used in the Lifestyles case study presentation template. So you can just screen grab your tables right out of the passive portfolio tracker and paste them into your case study presentation. On this tab, you will notice that if you have MFQA data on the MFQA tab and financials data on the financials tab, it will show you what your MFQA data was compared to what your actuals were from the financials tab, and you can compare what the MFQA reported versus what the actual information about each property is. Next, we'll cover migrating data from our reports tab to the reports tab. There are no changes on these tabs. The most important thing, come to your first property, first cell, select that, copy all the way down to get all of your data, right click, copy, make sure you're on your first property, first cell, right click, paste special, paste formulas. One thing to notice here is all of these groups each year is one group and they are collapsed down. You can see here on the bottom, we copied them while they were still collapsed down. That is not a problem, we can do that. So we'll go ahead and expand our 2022 group. It's the only one with sample data. And you'll see we have all of our 2022 reports in. Here in our 2022, we've migrated stuff over, but something looks different. Here in March, the information doesn't match up. And the reasoning for that is the default width of the columns is too narrow to show all the data. So if we come and slide that column over, all of a sudden, everything lines up again. So sometimes if the data doesn't match, check that your column width is wide enough, or on a numerical cell, it will just show dollar signs and you need to widen those up. Here on the Links tab, we want to make sure we go ahead and select our first cell, come all the way across and select all of our yellow cells to get all of our data. Right click and copy, go to the new one, go to the first cell of the first property, right click, paste special, paste formulas. That will copy all of our data across. The most important thing is here on the Links tab, make sure that you are not putting actual passwords. You are putting a hint to the passwords. For all of these other sections that have password, you might need to use the password because these are links to something that the lead has sent you and you need a password to get to that presentation or something. But this first one where you're talking about the portal, or the actual portal you have to log into and use your username, don't put in the actual password, put in a hint. And just kind of pay attention as you're working with these, whether it should be the actual password that you need to get in, or it should be a hint to the actual password. And here we can put in the property address, the URL, the portal URL, links to different presentation, video presentations, or whatever. Here on the PFS Schedule of Real Estate Owned tab, we want to go ahead and copy our data. It's just these two columns, no changes. Copy, come up, paste special, paste formulas, and that is all. And that concludes migrating your data from the old 2022 February 27th version of the Passive Portfolio Tracker to the new 2023 January 15th version of the Passive Portfolio Tracker. If you have any questions, please send email to tracker@sandesk.com and Nora or myself will get back with you and answer your question. We look forward to hearing from you.